Well, hey everyone. I am so excited to have all of you here today, and I am so excited to welcome Nicky Case as our Hack Club AMA guest. For those of you watching who don't know Hack Club is a network of high school hackers. You can check it out on hackclub.com. We're a totally free and open source organization. You can start your own Hack Club with school starting right now. Highly recommend checking out the website. So Claire Wang, who's calling in from Redondo Beach, California, is going to be our host today. Claire, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself, introduce Nikki?
Yeah. Hi. So I'm Claire. I am a rising sophomore and I run two hack clubs, one in LA and one in Massachusetts. That's a little bit weird, but whatever. And so hack club for me has been really great because I've been able to stay somewhat sane and able to actually talk to people over the summer. So thank you to everyone in Slack and hack club. And so Nicky Case, if you guys haven't heard of, their explorable explanations are honestly my favorite and probably the favorite a lot of you guys is as well. So kind of introducing them, they made the first virally successful game on Newgrounds and actually earned 5,000 in advertising revenue. And this was like before middle school, or in middle school. So that's pretty cool, right? Programming is the power. Also, all their code and all their projects could be found online and they're all open source, which honestly is a great programming learning research. And they're like great examples if you want to, struggle through JavaScript or something or like actual graphics. Those are really cool examples. And it also shows that you could build so much just by using you don't have to use 600 different frameworks. With the very basic vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you could do so much. So yeah. And Nikki, would it be possible if you could maybe share, how you got into explorable explanations or some story about, how you got into tech? That would be really cool.
Yeah. And also, I'm really surprised that you knew about the ad revenue I got back in the viral ground days. Oh, that's so long ago.
The game. Amog played through the whole
Yes,
game.
you did. Okay, a lot of those jokes did not age well. So my apologies and thank you. It's 12 years old by now. like that game is old enough to start a hack club, actually.
Yeah.
High school at this point. But yeah, so I guess start from the start. I have a beginning. So back in the not old days, but so I started off in Flash, and I think the statute of limitations has passed. I can tell you that I pirated it. Specifically, okay, I was a kid. Okay, I didn't know what my parents were getting me into, but apparently we pirated in person. I have a memory of going into a Malaysian software store, and then they just looked around and okay, and then they opened up a secret wall, and that's where I got my copy of Macromedia Flash. Yeah, that's how I started learning how to program. I remember the first thing I programmed was just a little counter to just counted up from 0 to infinity, and I was just shocked. I can make an infinite frame animation with just 3 lines of code. Ah! And so yeah, and then since then I've been making terrible games, posting them on Newgrounds. How I got into explorable specifically, if you were wondering of some kind of story where I was wanting to do things that help the world or is an important contribution to stuff, is no. My first explorable explanation was a promotional effort for a failing crowdfunding campaign. So I was I wanted to make it just to promote this game I was making. I made a little interactive tutorial on how I did the lighting effect in the game, and that tutorial hit the front page of Hacker News and was more popular and more impactful in my career than the actual game itself. So that's how explorable explanations got started, and now we're here. Any questions?
That's pretty cool. When you said that you did a tutorial, that was the sight and light thing, right? With the different rays in different directions.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised you know that. Yeah, that one. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
There's a chat apparently. Oh, there's a chat. Huh.
Yeah.
Yes, Chris, it is correct. It is sight and light.
All right, so I guess, now is a good time to start the AMA. As a reminder, if you ask a question, it'd be awesome if you raise your hand in Zoom and just introduce yourself, your name, what hack club you hail from, and some interesting tidbit. No, I'm kidding. But anyways, so I'll wait for you guys to raise your hand and we'll get started. All right, let's start with the Moog.
Hi, I'm Amog. I'm a summer intern here at Hack Club, and I remember the first time I played one of your games. It was a recommendation from Max. It was We Become What We Behold. And after I played that game, I sent Max a Zoom link, and for 45 minutes, I pretty much was just like, "Wow, that was so awesome." So at this point, I have played like almost all of your games. So and I have so many questions, but ironically, the one I do want to ask about is the game. I played it earlier and then I replayed it 3 times.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah. You are right that some of the jokes didn't age well, but I really loved it. So almost all of your games like sort of like send a message. And even though you were in middle school at the time, was there a message you were trying to send with the game?
No. I guess like no, or a lot of messages. You can tell like there's a lot of things I was trying to say, but like it was incoherent, but maybe in a funny way that seemed to resonate with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like for context, like my favorite show at the time was South Park, so that probably like came across in that kind of a very what's it called irreverence, irrelevance, incoherence kind of deal.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Thank
there
you.
wasn't. Yeah, it was a thing. It was a thing that happened.
Yeah, I really loved it.
There's actually a lot of levels that I cut out of the original, the first game, and I put in the second one because the first game was actually made for a contest, and the judges really liked it, but they wanted me to cut out the levels that involve religion. So I did do that, and I put it in the second game.
That's cool.
Yeah, probably for the best.
Yeah, probably. Actually, I have a quick question. So these are questions that we kind of ask every AMA. Just a quick question. So spaces or tabs for code do you mainly use? Curious.
All on one line. Both spaces and tabs.
Okay, I just have a moment of silence. Okay, that's kind of that's pretty impressive. I actually have a question of my own. So when you were making Parable of the Polygons, so this is a really vague question, I know, but I really enjoy Parable of the Polygons, and I was just wondering kind of what was like your process through starting your partnership with My Heart and just making the whole thing, because like how long did it take you and all that? That sounds
I'm glad you asked that. Like starting a collaboration with Viheart, because like at this point now in my career, like people fan over me, which is I'm still getting used to, and it's kind of weird. But like at the time, I subjected Viheart to that. I was like, "Oh my god, Vi, like you're such an inspiration!" And like she was like, "Yeah, it's like the 10 millionth time I heard this." So by school, she does not give a crap about anything anymore. Yeah. But yeah, we actually met at the first Explorable Explanations workshop, and actually the last one.
First and last.
Explorable Explanations like meetup that was going on at the Brett Victor's previous lab called Communications Design Group. It used to be in San Francisco. I guess it is. Well, actually now it's in Oakland. But yeah. So that's where we first met, and then it's weird. Like Vi and I have both been asked the question where did the idea of Parable of Polygons come from, and like both of us remember it being the other person's idea. So I remember she gave a talk about women in STEM, and she was the only woman at the group at the time. And then I also remember she brought up Schelling's model, which is like this game theory model by Nobel Memorial Prize winning economist Thomas Schelling. This is because Alfred Nobel did not like economists, so there's no.
Schelling points, yeah.
Economics. So
I think Alfred Nobel didn't like math, so that's why there's no math.
Yeah, there's no Nobel Prize for math either. Like Alfred Nobel's like, yeah, what she's just invented dynamite and then which killed a bunch of people. And it's like, I'm gonna just use my money to wipe my grief away. So there we go. Anyway, sorry, that was irrelevant. Yeah, so I remember Vi bringing up Schelling's model and diversity in STEM. She remembers that I did so. So neither of us really know where this idea came from. So in any case, the idea arrived from someone. I showed her. I whipped up a prototype and showed her, and then like after a couple months of talking, because she was busy and I was busy at the time as well. Parallel Polygons was actually the side project, one of my side projects. While I was like procrastinating on, I mentioned the Side and Lights, the first explorable explanation I made was a desperate attempt to get my crowdfunding campaign succeeded. And so it did succeed barely. And so the game I was working on was the main project, and Parallel Polygons was the side project. So after a couple of months of talking and both of us working on our main projects separately, we finally got together and finished Parallel Polygons in a couple more months, like about 6 weeks. And around that time, the Ferguson protest started. So that was also like when it released. Oh, and I guess also this was the year Gamergate happened. So like the thing that what was on our minds at the time was Gamergate, but by the time we released it, Black Lives Matter was in everyone's minds. Mm-hmm. So it was timely in an accidental way. Hopefully it helped shed some light on stuff, but in any case, it was a thing described in a new medium. So hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, that was really interesting to see how a side project can also succeed a lot as well. So our next question comes from Dina. Take it away.
So I used to lead a hack club for 2 years that was in Milton, Ontario, Canada. So I'm also in Canada. And yeah, Raptors. My question for you is, so although I haven't really done that much in game dev, I do like to write. So my question for you is, when you're coming up with like an idea for a game or just working on a game, is it like the story comes after the visuals and functions of the game, or do you have like an idea of characters and story first?
Okay, I'm really glad you asked that question, because like, I mean, like all of us here like have done programming, but like it's also good to like, talk about the other stuff that, your programming will interact with, like the design or art or the story. And actually, I want to like talk more with Amog about like We Become What We Behold, because that one actually like has a very specific like inspiration points and ending points. So if you don't know, We Become What We Behold was a game about news cycles, vicious cycles, and infinite cycles was my little tagline. This one was specifically inspired because I was doing a journalism fellowship at the time, and the time was 2016. So a lot of stuff happened in 2016. Actually, okay. So I guess like what was the specific inspiration was the rising polarization, and then like several shootings like by police, and then the 5 police officers who were killed in Dallas, and then then the Orlando terrorist attack, and then like another terrorist attack in Nice, France, and so that was a very stressful time to be in the news. And We Become What We Behold came out before the election, so it just kept escalating. So yes, there was very specific inspiration points there, and so I guess to come back to the track of like how I go about designing my projects, and I guess it's tied to like what Amog was saying about like messages. I guess like for some of my projects, it actually is. I guess I'm not sure why we say message, or like I guess I do try to think of like a point, like a purpose to it, not necessarily like a message, but like why is this topic important to me, like emotionally, like even if it's something as silly as fireflies. Like I made a little side project about fireflies when I was stuck on a different project, and like that one like resonated with me emotionally because there's this like species of fireflies that like by their little individual actions alone, they can like coordinate, and like entire forest like lights up in sync, goes on and off like a little blinker. And like I don't know, that was just inspiring to me for like some emotional reason. So like I do start with like, I guess like an emotional. I don't know if emotional core is a good way of describing it, because the bad way of doing emotion is like, it's like, all right, we're gonna shoot a dog in the first 10 minutes. This will really grab the audience's attention, and it will get the feels moving. But I guess like a point, like why do you care about this? Like why do I care about this thing. And I guess I was working in journalism at the time. I was just a citizen or like a person alive at the time. So that's why I cared enough about the topic of we become what we behold. For Adventures of Anxiety, like I've struggled with anxiety disorder, and like mental health is important to a lot of to my life and to a lot of my friends, and like 1 in 27 people in the world have anxiety disorder. So that was like emotionally important to me. So I guess I'm not sure that answers your question. Starting first with, I guess probably be better if I like stick to a concrete example. So like, yeah, with we become what we behold, there was the emotional, like I care about this, and the purpose for we become what we behold is just to like vent my frustration. And actually, we become what we behold actually is kind of a good example for this, because like the point of it is actually right in the title. Like the game starts off with a quote by Marshall McLuhan. Actually, it's a misattributed quote to Marshall McLuhan. We become what we behold. First we shape our tools, then our tools shape us. And it's just about like how cable news, social media, like is both caused by and is the cause of like all this polarization, which I think will still lead to like a lot of violence eventually. So that's the frustration, like knowing that I'm in an industry that is kind of complicit, and like, it's like, why do people like, like why are people's like, why is politics so broken and like so angry, and no one can come up with any compromise and negotiation? And it's like, well, as a journalist, kind of made this worse, really. Like anger sells, like anger gets clicks, like complex views do not get clicks. And like, why do mass shooters like keep shooting up schools and theaters for fame? Like, who's giving them the fame? Like, who's giving terrorists fame? It's us, the journalists. Like, we're doing this, and like, but also like it's the people who keep retweeting it. It's like even like when you're outside of journalism, like why does clickbait journalism exist? Because I'm still clicking, because people are still clicking. So like, it's just like, so unfortunately, like the game didn't actually have any like real solution. It was just like venting and frustration, which, I guess knowing is half the battle, or maybe, I don't know. But in any case, so it started with that frustration emotion first, and also like an actual core argument. So I guess like most of my games like also have a core argument. So like for we become what we behold, it's a feedback loop, and like the feedback loop then like is shown using the visual. So like there's a screen inside the screen inside the screen. For Adventures of Anxiety, the core argument is to work with your emotions rather than against them. And so this influenced the mechanics and the visuals, where the mechanics was at first it's a fighting game, but at the end it becomes a collaborative conversation. So I guess, yeah, okay, so this is a long way of going about saying like, yeah, start with the why I care about this, and then like some like core arguments. And then this core argument influences all of the design decisions, and for the mechanics and for the art direction. And I guess also with Adventures Anxiety, like, anxiety is a very like, for lack of a better phrase, like black and white thinking with a lot of danger, red. So that's actually where the visual design for Adventures Anxiety comes from. Like it's entirely monochromatic.
So there's a lot of like symbolism involved in what you end up choosing. That's really cool. And I remember during the elections of 2016, looking at your To Build a Better ballot, that felt very topical at the time. So that really helped me understand the whole voting.
I was already planning on that project before the election. So like the first sentence of that explorable is, no, this is not a lot about the election.
Yeah, but I guess it felt really topical at the time. And so I know Amog says his favorite was We Become What We Behold. But one of my favorites is The Evolution of Trust, because I was actually learning some game theory when I played that the first time. And so that was something that was really interesting, because it's fun to play through it super like repetitively many, many times. And every single time you play it, it's going to be different. And I love the story behind it. It's about how the Germans and I believe it was the British, just ended war for one day, or ended the battle and crossed no man's land. That's really inspiring. And I like showing it to a bunch of my friends, about like telling them that story. So, right. So our next question comes from...
Why I took so long on that? Like that was a good question. And like have a lot
Oh
to say.
no, you answered it like beautifully. I love the idea of like having an idea and then taking a core argument. So it was a wonderful answer, and I love the detail. So
Yeah, I like.
I think it took me like a while to like finally get to the core arguments, which is core arguments. So like this, that, but this, and like that influences like the mechanics and the art and the story and everything else.
Yeah.
Because I guess like, it's like if I just ended my answer on like first you start with an idea, it's like that is not helpful.
Yeah, I think it sticks more with the
Like,
example.
you know, like this, therefore that, but this, therefore that. Like
Yeah,
that kind of, like almost like I guess like having like a math and computer science background, like maybe that's kind of why how I approach my stuff. It's like it starts with like a almost like a like I guess like my projects like I kind of like proofs. Like here's a premise. Let's take it to a conclusion. So like if we become a behold, it's like people are influenced by what they see, and social media and the news like picks the most extreme examples. The logical conclusion of this is horrible.
Yeah, that's a cool way to look at it.
I think it's really inspiring also that like you kind of base it on frustrations and your like true emotions. So that I don't know, that seems really important to me, because if you're making stuff that you yourself don't care about, it's really hard for it to succeed. All right. So our next question comes from Lachlan. So take it away.
Lachlan.
Hi, Nikki. I'm Lachlan.
Moment.
What?
I haven't seen you in a long time.
It's been a while, yeah. So I'm a 19-year-old hack clubber from Pennsylvania. And one thing that's always really struck me about your work is how real and transparent it feels. That it feels like everything you make is coming like right out of your heart. I think especially like the coming out simulator game and the super long decade in review blog post that you wrote have really stood out to me. And like, how do you think about and balance being authentic and vulnerable, like in your writing and in the writing of your games on the internet, with like maintaining your kind of privacy and personal identity?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. The answer for coming out simulator is simpler because I wasn't famous at the time. So I just made this thing. I was like, no one's going to see it.
I actually found out about you from that simulator. Like I found your website just from that. So I don't know. That was topical.
So that's the answer for coming out simulator. Is the risk I took was calculated, but man, am I bad at math. And for the blog post, like the longer one, like that one, like I actually did bring out my, like in that blog post itself, like I had a very like dark, vulnerable moment I shared in that one, and like I actually did like bring express like the thought process for like why I thought like it was worth expressing that in the end. So I actually did like show my work in the mental calculus for that one, and yeah. So I guess the general answer is, how do I balance it? That's a really good question, and I guess for the blog post, like at least like it was an actual pros and cons list. But in the end, like I'm thinking like, and also I recently I've been like in a rabbit hole of like researching like neo-Aristotelian virtue ethics, and I'm thinking like finding balance and stuff. Like maybe there's just no like set rules for anything. And I know that sounds like really woo-woo and like new agey, but like thinking of like, you know, like the difference between like good old fashioned AI and like current AI. Like good old fashioned AI like had all these rules, and like the programmers would put in explicit rules, and then like they hit a complete brick wall for like 2 decades. And now AI is just like, you just give it a bunch of examples and it just learns, and it has no rules, or it like has no explicit rules, and it actually seems to work. So I think that's how you find balance in everything at this point. It's just like gradient descent, you know, have a lot of examples, try a lot of stuff, fail a lot, and then and then it just becomes tacit knowledge, and then see what happens, and try not to fail too spectacularly, because the internet is not a forgiving place.
Yeah, don't post anything that ends up saved in history. All right. Our next question comes from Charlie, and so why don't you take it away? Charlie? I believe.
Sorry. There. Hi. sorry. So of the projects you start, what percentage of those are you actually able to ship? How many die before they see the light of day?
Oof.
Sorry, that was a bit morbid.
That I actually started. See, this is also like depends because like I don't officially count the project as started until I know I want to that until like it's like it's kind of like not naming your baby until like after the first trimester. It's like I don't count it as started until like I know it's at the point where I can actually like I'm pretty sure I'll actually finish it. So trying to think of like the last project I really just like completely ditched. That's hard. I actually think about it. I actually do finish most of the projects that I do at least announce. So of the projects that I announce, around like 90% I get finished. The one big one I did not finish, as I mentioned earlier, was that game I crowdfunded. Yeah, that the one never got finished. I did refund everyone, or at least I gave a partial refund, and I open sourced the code, so not a total loss. Yeah, actually, that's really surprising. Now that I actually think about it, like most of the projects that I do announce, like I actually do finish, which is really surprising to me because like I feel like I don't actually finish a lot.
Well, I think that's really great because since you said that a lot of your projects are based on your true motivations and feelings, I think maybe that's why you're able to like ship most of your projects. I don't know. That's just what I would think.
There's also a lot of projects that I prototype to find out if I actually do want to start. I guess I think that's what I was trying to get at is I do prototyping first, and then if the prototype seems to like be good enough, then I consider it actually started. I have a graveyard of prototypes. Let me just go through them. Oh wait, I'm on the different user accounts. But yes, there are lots of projects that I just kind of just never see the light of day, or I just like save for like years later. So like, for example, the one I'm working on right now, I actually made the first prototype for it like 2 years ago, and I'm actually only now starting to get around to it. So, projects don't get trashed. They just go in the recycling bin, and you can recycle them at some indefinite points in the future.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Sorry, did you want to add something, Charlie, or no?
No, I was just basically going to say, yeah, I kill a ton of stuff in that stage too. So I was just curious to see how the numbers, because mine are not amazing.
Yeah, no, that is a good strategy. Like, yeah, prototype first, fail fast, and don't tell anyone about it until you know that you actually want to finish through it.
Cool. Yeah. So we are at the 30-minute mark. So I just kind of want to ask a few questions before we go on to our next questions. And so let's backtrack a little bit. Could you tell us a little bit about maybe like where you grew up, what inspired you, and how you really got into like tech and make you want to build explorables? I know I kind of asked this at the start, but what about anything else that you would be willing to share?
And also, do you want me to like shorten my answers? Because
no, your answers are great. They're so like they're fun to listen to, and they're like authentic. I don't know.
Okay, well, have fun editing this transcript later. Okay, I guess my life story. Okay, so born in Singapore, 1994. Then yes, as I mentioned, we traveled up to Malaysia and like went to this like secret CD store. Like, hey kid, you want some pirated software? We got Macromedia Flash, and then I got Macromedia Flash, and then made some games and animations. Posted them on Sheezy Art, if anyone remembers that. It was like the knockoff of DeviantArt. Anyway, it lasted like a while, and then it was like Sheezy Art sucks. Then I posted my first game to Newgrounds. It was a Christmas-themed clone of Snake. It's still there on Newgrounds. It has 2.5 stars. It's pretty bad. It just barely passed the blam threshold. So then then I started like submitting like games to like contests to try to make some cash. Most embarrassing moments was when I submitted a game to this contest where the top four entries would get prizes. There were 5 entries, including mine. I did not get the prize. So that was that. Eventually, the game actually was the one who got popular and like was the first time I actually made cash on the thing. It was like, oh my God, I can actually make a living out of making violent stick figures. This is great. And I guess this like leads to a more like personal thing because like my family was like not exactly functional at the time or at all. Part of it was because like I was coming out as queer and like this was like my family was like very, very, very against that. But thankfully, like my games got noticed by a couple people at EA in California. And so I was able to get an internship there and like move away from the family for about a year to make games. And like that was my first time I actually got to live in a more supportive environment, more LGBTQ supportive, and it's like more emotionally supportive in general. And also I learned a lot of like professional skills and stuff, and also like personal skills, like learning how to live by myself and like do my own laundry and cook and like not die. So, oh, hey, Kristen's cat, you're in the way. So yeah, and actually, yeah, that was a moment of like a lot of personal and professional growth, and like that's kind of, and it was kind of thanks to like learning how to program games that like gave me like an out for my independence. So yeah, so that's how I got my independence, and then after that internship ended, like I did some startup-y thing for a while that was also bullshit, but it also let me at least managed to let me get out for a bit. And then for Explore Vaccinations, as I mentioned, I was doing this crowdfunding campaign, and then as a desperate like promotional effort, I made that thing, and that got more popular. So then I just kind of pivoted, and so I've been making explorables since then. And I'm kind of at a new transition point right now. Like, I'm drinking some water. So the thing is, work has kind of been like the pillar of my life for the last decade, and I'm realizing that's incredibly unhealthy. And it's like, and maybe it's just because I haven't been hugged in 6 months, but like I really do want to like focus more on my relationships and friends, and like work being like the side dish rather than being the entire dish, you know?
Well,
instead of relationships taking a backseat, actually, saying my relationships taking a backseat is kind of a, what's it called? Like putting it too kindly. My relationships have kind of been taking the trunk seat.
Just kind of letting life take you wherever. Well, well, everyone in the chat is just sending you hugs, and I know it's probably pretty hard to get hugs during quarantine, but here's a virtual hug.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Anyways, thank you for that in detail. That's actually really cool that you were able to kind of leave home by going to the Bay Area and doing work there. That's pretty cool. So our next,
like, it's really lucky, and like it's not a scalable solution for.
Yeah, it's probably hard to apply to everyone.
Not a scalable solution, but
it's still really lucky. Yeah. So our next question comes from Matthew.
Hi, I'm Matthew. I've just graduated high school, and I used to lead a hack club there for 2 years in West Lafayette, Indiana. I just have a quick question about like the process of making your games. Do you normally, when you start like a really big project, do you is the process to finishing it more like a bunch of time of like really solid focused work, or is it more like small like pieces of focused work separated by long breaks of totally losing motivation, or somewhere in between?
The goal is the former. What happens in practice is the latter. Yes. Like, yeah, a lot of focus, and I guess this is happening right now with my current project. Actually, let me just show you a sneak peek. I haven't even shown my patrons this yet, so.
Ooh.
This is because I have not been. I meant to publish this Patreon post like last week, but the problem is not losing motivation. The problem is losing focus for me. So it's a webcam toy. So this is I guess like in real time is like drawing a little cat girl over my head in real time using my webcam.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and then you can see like it's tracking the browse. It's got some spring physics in there. So that's my other tip for the hot tip. Put spring physics in all your games. Like it'll make it 1,000,000 times better.
Yeah, all your games have really cool animations like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So why did I bring this up? Oh yes, because I've been very not focused. This past week, I meant to write the just the post. I just didn't write the post, and then I got on this like tangent of like writing a long essay about utilitarianism and virtue ethics, and then like another time, like I just spent an entire day reading the SCP Foundation website. It's like none of this is what I wanted to work on. Like this isn't even productive.
Well, I've been reading the SCP Foundation website. It sounds pretty productive to me. Thank you.
6,000 entries, at least.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess it's not that interesting. Our next question comes from Neil Ravel. Sorry.
It's Rahul. It's fine. Hey Nikki, I'm a 19-year-old hack lover from India, and I lead the hack lab at Chennai. So I have a quick question for you. As you said, so which game character which you have made relates most to you?
Which game character have I made in my games that is most like me?
Yes.
Oof. Well, Coming Out Simulator was autobiographical, so that one was me.
I mean, have you had any emotional connect with the character?
Character that is most me, I would say, would be Adventures of Anxiety, the duo between the human and the wolf. Like I mean, that one actually was really inspired by personal experiences. So like, and that one's funny because like that one is actually like a character inside another character. Like it's like Inside Out, except like the human is also like a main character.
Well, I guess Inside Out also has.
Yes. Okay,
yeah, but like it's like Inside Out, except if like Riley could also talk to Joy or Sam.
Oh, yeah, that would have been an interesting movie.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
Outside in.
So
thank you.
Yes, so that one was so that's the answer to your question, I hope. Yes, very endemically inspired. Got a wolf and a person. Yes.
Really so.
Shirt. Did I show you my shirt yet? My incredibly unprofessional shirt. I decided to wear this for this call.
Yeah. It looks really cool though. It's cool. Our next question comes from Sartak. I'm not even gonna try it. I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Sarthak Monty. I'm just an active Slack member from San Antonio, Texas. I was just wondering, what do you have any inspiring figures, and like who are they, and why do you look up to them?
Oh, okay, that is a good question, and I say it's a good question because I've been thinking a lot again about like Neo-Esther's. Fuck! If I can't fucking pronounce this, I need to stop swearing so much. If I can't pronounce Aristotle's name, virtue ethics, and like his whole deal with like learning how to be excellent, not through a specific set of rules like utilitarianism or deontology, but like role models, examples, and I guess like same with like how AI learns these days. Like instead of like set rules for life, you just like have examples. I guess actually, that's what I'm trying to say. Like instead of like, do I have any rules that I go to by with life? Not really. Do I have examples? Yes. And like, I guess that's kind of how new AI works. Instead of like rules, like back in the old AI days, is like lots of examples now. Sorry, that was a long tangent. Do I have any role models? Alan Turing comes to mind because did good work, helped beat the Nazis for the British, invented computer science. And like his last paper invented mathematical biology, just as a whim. It's like, let me just like invent mathematical biology. It's just as a whim. And also like him being like queer as well is like also like a little bit thing I relate to. Tragic end, so like that also like makes it more romantic in a kind of screwed up way. It's like, I love martyrs, like, which is not healthy. Don't have. I need more role models who didn't die horrible deaths. Like I just realized last week that all of my role models have died horrible deaths. Martin Luther King, Alan Turing, Marie Curie. Like I need someone who hasn't died horrifically. I guess Benjamin Franklin, like he lived okay.
I guess there's still role models that are alive. I guess possibly.
Yeah, but they could still die horribly, like John Conway. Like God, I love. He died of COVID. Oh God.
Yeah.
So look up to dead people because then they can't disappoint you anymore.
Okay, that's the moral of the story. So you keep bringing up Util and Dayon, and so I know a lot of us here are debaters, including me. And while I don't know if you want to go into the whole utilitarian debate, what could you like relate onto your whole No, actually, you know what? If you want, you can go into it. I'm really curious what you think about utilitarianism and what framework you would prefer.
Sorry, what's the question?
What's your view on utilitarianism and consequentialism, and which view, I don't know, what would you prefer, or do you normally frame your like worldview on?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. And of course, I've been like hinting at this throughout this call because I've been thinking about it. And I sort of think straight up front, like, I respect like all of y'all's moral worldviews because like I myself have been like jumping around and like I'm a recent convert to virtue ethics. So like this is like, so I respect all these different views because I have had all these different views at some point. So I guess like I did like start off with utilitarianism as when I first started thinking about, more frameworks I really care about, like utilitarianism, like the first one that seemed like obviously the most correct. Because like, for the three main schools, virtue ethics, deontology, and utilitarianism, like virtue ethics was by Aristotle, and it's like, yeah, you Greeks were nice, but also you owned slaves and had sex with 12-year-old boys. So, I don't know if I trust your moral system. Immanuel Kant's deontology is like, okay, you were okay, you were against slavery, but you were also against women voting, so not that great. Jeremy Bentham, inventor of utilitarianism, is like, yeah, he was against slavery, for women voting, and he was even like for decriminalizing homosexuality. In like, this was like mid 1700s in England, where like sodomy had the punishment of death by hanging, and he was like in favor of decriminalizing homosexuality. To be fair, he did this in an essay that was not published until like 2 centuries after his death, because yeah, like he would have been straight up killed if he had published that, probably. So it seemed at the time, it's like, yeah, utilitarianism seems to like predict all the good stuff in advance. So I guess I kind of stuck with utilitarianism for a long time, and like had to make a few variants here and there because you can't exactly calculate the utility function for 8 billion people on the fly. So one variant is rule utilitarianism, where instead of like doing the acts which would maximize utility, you pick the rules to live by, such that if you didn't live by those rules, it would maximize utility. This way you don't have to like calculate your utility function for 8 billion people over hundreds of years over and over. And I guess another thing that also like changed my mind a little bit was reading Brave New World, where you want to maximize happiness, yeah, why don't you just give everyone heroin? It's like
yeah, Brave New World is an interesting book.
Yeah.
Very.
So there's like another variant of utilitarianism. I think it was J.S. Mill. I'm forgetting what his name actually was because it's not JavaScript Mill, that's for sure. J.S. Mill, the difference between like higher pleasures and lower pleasures, like a more noble happiness versus a more base like happiness, which I only later learned is actually very similar to Aristotle's beliefs on eudaimonia, like human flourishing. And so why like kind of circling back to more neo-Aristotelian virtue ethics. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with Jonathan Haidt. He wrote the book Divided Mind, like Why Are We Divided by Religion and Politics. He's like in the Venn diagram of psychologists who are popular and psychologists whose work has actually replicated. He's like one of like 3 people. So actually, yeah, that's a role model I actually look up to who's actually still alive, and therefore still has time to disappoint me. Jonathan Haidt, like he's intellectually rigorous. He's humble. He's like he has good insights into like the big political topics, and he's not an asshole, which is really good. Because hang on, where was my train of thought? So Jonathan Haidt in a paper with Joseph somebody, with some co-author who's less famous. This was the paper where he laid down like this, his findings for like cross-cultural, like 6 moral foundations, like 6. he and his colleague like examined cultures across the world and found that like 6 like factors that factor in like almost like cross-culturally like people's morality systems. Anyway, in this paper, he writes that virtue ethics, like we believe that virtue ethics is the most psychologically sound approach to morality. And like rereading virtue ethics from like a more modern psychology perspective is like, so virtue ethics is about, like you can't have any, like morality doesn't work by, actually the thing that's really interesting about virtue ethics is that it's not just morality. It's like Aristotle's like list of virtues included stuff like wittiness and like friendliness, like stuff that's like not moral, and like also like stuff like intellectual virtues. So like Aristotle like mostly talked about it in terms of like flourishing as a full human being, which is kind of like what's been the same train of thought as like positive psychology these days, where like instead of just happiness is like flourishing as a full human being. Because like if it's just like pleasure and happiness, it's like just put everyone on heroin or soma, and there you have it. But if you want people to like have a full flourishing life, like what is it that makes like what? So I guess like Aristotle back then, like back when they believed in like several gods, like there wasn't actual like purpose for what humans were designed. But now like evolutionary psychologists can say like, well, there's no purpose, but there are functions, like there are like actual functions that you did evolve for, like relationships or like learning, like stuff, and like that stuff like actually does feel fulfilling because that actually does fulfill the function you did evolve for, at least the evolutionary function. It's not like a purpose as an intentional design, but like it is a function. So that's been tying into evolutionary psychology. It also like ties into like more of the cognitive psychology on like how we do tacit knowledge, because like when I how I do language, no one actually remembers all the rules for language. Like no one remembers like I before E except after C, except for science, except for all these other like exceptions. Is exception an exception I before E? I think it is actually. So and this has been tying into like say AI and cognitive science, where like like rule-based systems for language or for like vision or for like learning didn't even work that well for AI, and it doesn't work for humans, and it definitely doesn't work for morality or like figuring out how to flourish as a person. All you can do is like have a lot of examples, role models, as one of you said, Sarthak said, and also like practice like going out there and failing in a way that doesn't hurt too much and learning from those mistakes. So, and then like a lot of virtue ethics is about like the importance of habits. To quote someone who misattributed a paraphrase of Aristotle, excellence is not an act, but a habit. And that seems to be tying into what Aristotle said back then, like actually seems to be tying into a lot of psychology that we now know about habits. So anyway, this is a long way of saying that, and also like personally, I've been finding that trying to like actually like follow utilitarianism like has led a lot of like burnouts for me, and also like personal boundary failures where like I sacrificed a lot of my own mental health for something that I thought would have been more important for the other person. And like it's hard to judge like it's hard to judge moral. It's like the problem with judging moral systems is like moral systems are standards, and like by what standard do you judge standards?
That does sound.
I see by itself, and the argument has been made several times that for utilitarianism, like teaching people to try to follow utilitarianism would reduce world utility. So I'm finding that the moral code for utilitarianism doesn't seem to work very well on the moral code doesn't work on human hardware. And
I think if you're
the virtue ethics and as Jonathan Haidt and a lot of these psychologists have been arguing is that virtue ethics, at least like modified from Aristotle, because Aristotle supported slavery, so you want to modify Aristotle a little bit. It seems to like dive toe into like evolutionary psychology, cognitive psychology, and like psychology and habits. So that's my recent conversion. we'll see if it works, or if it just like if I also like flame out and burn out on this, and I just start.
No. That's really interesting. I definitely agree. It's like while you could debate about frameworks, if you're on a person by person basis, it's impossible to stick to one framework forever. So our next question comes from our one and only Zach. Take it away. This is going to be exciting.
I think I bit my cheek during that question.
Oh, you okay?
Sure. Yeah, I'm probably fine.
So
I mentioned my utility today. We'll find out. Tougher. It's like one cheek scan and like 5 other people. I don't know. Trolley check. Whatever.
Amazing. Hey, Nikki. So I want to ask a question for someone in the chat. Their name is Avi W, and they're really sad that they couldn't make the AMA because they have Zoom school and they are in a Zoom school meeting right now.
Wait, sorry, I haven't been seeing the chat. My microphone is in the way. Sorry, I'm going to scroll back.
No, you're good. They're on the Hack Club Slack. So first they wanted me to start out by sharing that they think it's awesome to see a fellow Asian NB on a Hack Club AMA, and it means a lot to them that you're here. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Who's the person?
And their name is Avi W. They're a high schooler from the Bay Area, and their question is: when you find yourself in a stressful situation while working on a project, how do you manage stress-induced procrastination? Like, what does that actually look like for you? And like, have you found tools to manage that? And if you could give us like a visual description of what that looks like for you, that'd be amazing.
The honest answer is, how do I deal with stress-induced procrastination? Is I don't do very well at it. Also, scrolling through the chat. Thank you, Christina. Yes, John Stuart Mill, not JavaScript Mill. Yeah, that makes more sense. So things I have been trying and actually seem to be working is sometimes is one, getting good sleep. That seems to be like the most important one. It's like actually get sleep, because every other concept ability is kind of bottlenecked by a brain not functioning. So yeah, getting good sleep, remembering to eat. I skipped lunch yesterday, and that was like not good for any focus whatsoever. So yeah, I guess physical health is like the foundation. Like if I wanted to like say what's the 80-20 thing you want to do? Physical health, like sleep and eating on time, and like doing a bit of exercise, just to just get your blood brain stuff going. Seems to be physical health is the foundation. For more tips and tricks, life hacks kind of stuff, I've been I don't have it right now, but I've been taping my to-do list to my wrist in the morning. So I write my to-do list in the evening prior, and then I have a little elastic band or a piece of tape, and I just tape it to my wrist. So when I wake up in the morning, I can see what I want to do. If I had a smartwatch, I could do that instead. But if I had a smartwatch, I would have all these notifications. So instead, I just have a little Post-it note being like, what do I do now? Oh, look at the time. I'm sorry, I can't chat. It's work o'clock.
That's actually that's so smart. Oh my gosh.
It actually is really satisfying to get a pen and check it off physically on my wrist. And you can't do that with a smartwatch, can you? Just swipe with your sausage fingers.
Yeah.
And
wow, I'm gonna start doing that now. Oh my god, that is honestly so smart though, because that really just gets the whole analog thing to the next level.
Yes, and the other thing that just came to mind is if I start procrastinating, my to-do list is on my evil hands. It's I start reaching and typing in TWITTER. I'm no, my hands are telling me don't do that.
That's pretty cool. All right, so we have about 8 minutes, or actually, I guess 6 minutes left and remaining. So
I have nothing else for the rest of the day. So if you want to go overtime, that's totally cool.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. So if everyone wants to ask questions, we could do a lightning round or whatever. And so our next question comes from Gabriel Moz, and you can take it away.
Okay. Hi, I'm Gabriel, and basically I've been learning video editing, and I'm very interested into game programming and such. And I've had a question in my mind. What do you think is one thing that could change the game industry completely?
Oof. What is one thing that could change the video game industry completely? Sorry, I'm really pausing to try to think about this one. I don't know. I'm sorry, that's not a good answer. I'm trying to think of like what trends are going on in the game industry right now. Actually,
I think currently.
no, actually, that one trend I'm actually very happy with in the game industry and also in the music industry is that Bandcamp and itch.io seem to be sticking it to Spotify and Steam. It's like, yes, we can actually have a, just an indie, like just a nice, just a wholesome, like, here's a thing and individual people are selling it. And, it's not like Steam taking a 50% cut or whatever cut they're taking because you're not legally allowed to disclose what cut they're taking. Or Spotify, where it's just like, yeah, we just take a cut. We don't know. So I think that's a thing. That's a trend I'm like most happy with. I don't know. I hope it changes a lot of industries where it's just like these like smaller, like kind of like almost like Etsy like or like Etsy, Bandcamp, itch.io, just like these like small little like stores where it's like mostly the creator in control. Like just like a simple, wholesome, honest business model. So I guess that's how I hope will change a lot of industries, including the game industry, on the economic business front. I'm trying to think in terms of like the technological front. I mean, like everyone says AR and VR, and I guess I'll think the same. Like I actually am glad there's like now actual games in VR that like actually use VR to its fullest, because when it first came out, it was kind of like the big worry is that it's going to be like 3D glasses at movies. It's like it's just an expensive gimmick. Hasn't really added to anyone's like. Does anyone actually like 3D movies?
Like I remember the Google Glass. It was cool for like one evening, and then it's kind of like why I don't really see why I'd use it anymore, unless you're like some sort of type of super spy from Mission Impossible or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like if you want to be like a very obvious spy, it's like
exactly. You have the thing right there.
Don't worry.
It's really awkward. Like someone might wonder, are you looking at me or are you looking at like Safari or something? All right, next question comes
in the chat. Yes, I remember Spy Kids 3D. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh,
I haven't thought about it in like 10 years, but yes, I remember Spy Kids 3D.
Exactly, I loved it so much.
Okay,
our next question.
That's a good point. Spy Kids 3D was totally worth the 3D glasses. I changed my mind. You're right. Also, I'm going to turn off my camera while I go get some more tea and water. I'm still listening. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. All right. So our next question comes from Christina.
Hey. All right. I guess I'm going to make this a long question to just let Nicky hydrate. Hey, everyone. I'm Christina. I'm calling in from Vermont, and I work at Hack Club. And my question is about journalism. So it's kind of funny that like even years before I knew about Hack Club, Nicky and I actually emailed because we were working for the same radio company in Boston. I was a journalist before I joined Hack Club. So like, I'm really curious what Nicky thinks about journalism today. And I see so many of the influences of journalism in their work. And so kind of my question is like, do they think that the way that journalism is structured today, whether it's like print or television or radio, with like the focus on making it clickable, or if it's a TV segment, you get literally 60 seconds. Like, is there any room in those formats to do the deep thinking and capture like any of the complicated nature of so many of the issues facing us today? So like, that's my one question. Like, basically, what do you think about the mainstream media? Do you just dismiss it entirely, or do you actually use it to inform you? And then my second question is like 20 years from now, do you think that people will, like, how do you think people will be getting their news?
Yeah, those are good questions. And thank you for making a long question, because I did get my bottle hydrated and I brought my kettle up. I got the kettle instead of filling up my tea so I can. And I'm holding like 5 objects at the moment. Yes. And yes, to clarify, Christina, you were one of the good journalists. Don't worry, I wasn't criticizing you. Don't worry.
That's all right.
COVID actually matters, like women's rights and like all the stuff that freaking matters. Not remember the Stormy Daniels thing is like this doesn't matter, and it's like,
well, I especially feel that way now watching like election coverage, because like I was just talking to someone about how frustrating it is to watch election coverage right now because it's so incredibly shallow. And even the concepts coming up in this call are so much more deep and interesting than any of the concepts I can find, like in the New York Times. So, like, where do you get your news from? And do you have any faith that we'll even be like reading the New York Times in 20 years?
And I'm glad you brought it up because, like, the whole coronavirus thing has also been like just more frustrating and like for the first like several months, and actually still now, like the news has been focusing on specific like. Not once did any of them like explain what an exponential curve was in the beginning. Like if they just focus on like the absolute numbers, and if you just focus on the absolute numbers, then people would rightly ask like, well, this is less than this is less than the flu, so like why would we worry? And like they could have explained the answer at any point. There's exponential growth. That's it. They could have explained it at any point, but they decided to focus on just the specific numbers, and it's like. And it's like exponential growth is like it's a harder concept, but it's like not that hard. You could have put it like even in the headline. So that's like kind of my frustration with a lot of like news. As you mentioned, like a lot of the concepts like is really shallow. It's like all these like little bits and pieces without even like the simplest of like analysis. Like even it's like an exponential curve. Like it's just it's really simple to explain this. And they just didn't, and that's why I think a lot of people like dismissed it early because yeah, if you just focus on the absolute numbers, like in February and March, like it did in fact seem like in absolute numbers wise, it actually was less than the flu. But it's the growth rate you should worry about. So one news source that I do follow often is Our World in Data. So that one is like really statistically rigorous. And yeah, Max Grosser was one of the founders and people runs it, like was one of the first statisticians. Actually, like his tweets about it about COVID-19 in February were like what finally like convinced me to like take it more seriously because Max doesn't like he's someone like I found was like really level-headed. He like like he doesn't it's not him. He doesn't win a lot of friends saying terrorist attacks and mass shootings aren't that big of a deal because statistically they're very rare. But it does mean that when he does start ringing the alarm bells about something, that's when I start paying attention. So Our World in Data is really data based, and also they publish everything Creative Commons for free. So like they're doing a very valuable service. So I guess the first question is like, where do I get my news from? So I guess Our World in Data is the most like news-ish site I get my news from. At least like more general newsy stuff. I guess like where I get my news from is like first I hear what topics people are talking about, and then I go try to look at some data. Whether that's a more like layperson facing thing like Our World in Data, or like if I can, like I try to find like I go to Google Scholar and like try to find some papers if there has been actual research. Like I guess that's for like news articles on like older topics. But yeah, I guess like for like COVID-19, like a lot of this stuff is already on Google Scholar and like on preprints. So that was actually I guess like this has been like a kind of hard thing to see like preprints and like the science community actually working pretty well during this crisis. More or less. I mean, as well as you can during a crisis. So that was good. I also do really like Quanta magazine because like the articles are usually written by the actual expert researchers themselves. So I guess I try to bias my media consumption towards like places where it's actually written by subject experts. So Quanta magazine, Stat News has gotten a bit of a name during the COVID-19 crisis because like I think it's written by I can't remember. Yeah, actually, yeah, no, yeah, they do have a lot of guest articles from like actual scientists. And like, and I don't mean to like put down like science journalists, because like Ed Yong, for example, is not a scientist, but like he writes amazing science communication. But it is much harder if you are not already a subject expert in an area to write something that is both accessible and not just bull crap, basically.
Yeah,
Like, it's really hard, especially with like and I don't mean to like say that journalists are stupid or evil. Like I've been in there, so I know like the deadline is tight and the profit margins are like 1 centimeter wide. Like like you have to publish like fast, and like fast and good is a really hard hurdle to hit. So I'm glad I got to work at PBS Frontline, because they can take. Well, actually, this is the downside. They can take a long time and stuff. So
yeah.
And I guess for the second question, where do I see news 2 decades from now? I don't know. Will the New York Times still exist 2 decades from now?
We don't know.
I don't know. Not as it currently exists. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. And I do see how it might be hard for journalists to be experts in everything they write about. Because, being an expert kind of means you specialize in it, and you are a journalist and you write about a lot of stuff. So yeah, no, that's definitely a really good rule about reading from subject matter experts. That's really inspiring.
Yeah.
So,
and actually, another alternative business model I've been seeing recently with like Substack, and it's like, instead of you subscribing to an outlet, you subscribe to like a person, and like that person is your source for this one subject area. We'll see.
And there's also like Wiki Social, which is something that the founder of Wikipedia is working on, which is also pretty interesting.
Oh, I actually don't know Wiki Social.
Oh, you can check it out. It's wiki.social. And so given that we're a little bit over time, I'll pass this off to Zach to close us off. And
no, I'm actually like totally free. So if you want to ask like 2 more student questions, it's totally fine.
I have a question.
Oh, it's Chris. Hi.
Hey, Nicky. Big fan. Nice to meet you finally.
Who are you?
If people hear, no, that's not true. We never met before. It's okay. I wanted to ask about how people can start making explorable explanations. It's something that I've seen bandied about in the Slack channel that we have here at Hack Club. But it is admittedly a difficult thing to really, because it's such an interdisciplinary mix, and also because there are a lot of examples at this point, but I don't know, like, are there resources, repositories of examples, materials that people can use to get inspired and get involved with what I think is like one of the most interesting things that's happening on the internet right now?
I wouldn't say it's the most interesting thing happening on the internet, but I would say maybe it's one of the nicer things. First, I want to talk about Flash and how it was terrible, but it was great. Like, you could just like dive in and just make a thing. And there is still, like, even after like 10 years since Steve Jobs' open letter to Flash, there is no like equivalent tool for HTML5 things, and that just still sucks. So that's what I wanted to complain about. Like if we still had Flash, if you want to make an explorable explanation, you could just dive in. Just go to a CD software store and ask for Macromedia Flash, and then you can make an explorable explanation. But we don't. So yeah, I wanted to complain about that. The other thing is the Explorables website does have 2 sections for tools to make explorable explanations. So one section for tools and one section for tutorials. So if you want to go and get deep dive in, those are your go-to places. Yeah, because there's some places where there's some tools, like one I built, actually 2 I built. There's a cellular automata tool I built, and another one for like feedback loops that don't require any coding, but you all know how to code. So there's also like a few there that also like have just links to coding libraries, like one Brett Victor made, and also like and also there's like Desmos, yeah, the tools are all there. The website is post. Oh yeah, Zach Latta already posted it. Thanks, Zach. Yeah, it's there. Go to explorebull.es.
Explorable.es. So because you said that we're allowed to ask a few more questions, we're going to take full advantage of that. We have one more question again from Lachlan. So take it away.
Hi again. So in thinking about being especially an independent creator on the internet, over the last few years, there's been a lot of, I think, mostly pretty low quality, but discourse about cancel culture.
I was wondering and worried when someone would ask me about this.
And like,
I was prepared an answer.
how do you think about like cancel culture and like not getting canceled, but like also kind of just the whole discourse and like where do you think like independent creators fit in, and like are you worried about it, and like just kind of the whole thing?
Yeah, so the answer I prepared is you are asking me this on a public call that will be recorded and posted on the internet. So this is how honest I can be.
Yeah.
That was my answer. And the second answer is that, yeah, even like, you know, in openly queer and like NB is concerned about being canceled from the social justice community. Is like, at this point, like, it's like, maybe is this like an unhealthy dynamic? Like, because you're also an NB. So it's like, if we're both concerned about this, it's like, maybe at this point, like, is the revolution devouring its own children? And just a little bit, you know, just a little bit of concern about this. So as for like weighing the pros and cons of like getting canceled, I guess like, and I do want to like write a longer form like essay about this, but like, so I guess like for me, like I you know, I also do understand like where this like fear and anger is coming from, because, you know, given the fucking everything, it's like I can see like why like people are jumping the gun but they are jumping the gun, and I just I want to like acknowledge the hurts, but I also do want to like also acknowledge that the way they're acting on this hurt is also hurting people further. So and I don't yet know how to express this, so the way I'm balancing wanting to be authentic and honest and not getting canceled is by making sure I express what I do actually honestly believe in, but in a way that actually gets across, what's the word? Without, because there's the kind of, you know, this the kind of like fake honesty, or like kind of like the bullshit honesty where you just like say whatever's on your mind, even if it's not what you really believe in, and doesn't take into consideration like other people's feelings and like their beliefs and where they're coming from. And it's like, no, it's like, you know, my job is to teach and educate. It's like my job is to first know where people are at emotionally and intellectually and cognitively, and work from there, but also like honestly express myself. So like, so basically like the long short answer is like, long story short is like, I'm still working on this. Is like, I'm still trying to figure out a way like how to express, yeah, like knowing where the hurts behind cancel culture is coming from, but also like acknowledging like this is also hurting, like not just like people in general, but also like marginalized folk themselves. Like people being like basically like it, like this is not a supportive community if everyone's afraid of each other. Like that's not a supportive community. That's not good for our mental health or for our activism. So I'm still starting to like figure out how to like express this in a way that's like will be received as a point.
Yeah.
Also like not like hiding anything. I'm, you know, it's actually honest, but like in a way that actually will be received. So yeah, so basically I'm still working on it. Hopefully that was a way that it's expressed in a way that hopefully acknowledges where people are coming from, but also acknowledges that it's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been struggling with this as well recently, because I kind of realized that like if I put a piece of writing on the internet, there's like or even just a tweet, like there's a potential cost to it to me if like 10 years from now, like it's no longer the view and people think I'm dumb for it. Whereas if I don't,
I'm like so afraid of the games because like that shit I made when I was 13. I had very problematic views back then.
Yeah.
There is a Chinese character in that game with a big fucking rice patty hat, easy eyes, and I'm very glad I can get away with it because I'm Asian. But if any other racial stereotype in that game, I would be fucked.
Yeah, because I just think there's kind of a cost that I can avoid just by being quiet. That like if I don't say anything, it can't come back to bite me most of the time. And so like it's weird that like we have this like creative culture and community that incentivizes making things, and you have to make things and say things in order to like do something you're proud of or like be known for anything. But at the same time, like not making things is also incentivized, and not saying things is incentivized to avoid like people canceling you in whatever way that is.
Yeah, so yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Was there a further question? Yes.
I think
that was good. And thank you for letting me get that off my chest. And also, like, I'm glad that question was asked at the end of the stream. So if anyone's watching this,
so you just fell through.
They wouldn't have seen this first.
And so one of your quotes is really important. This is not a supportive community if everyone's afraid of each other. I think that is a very good motto that I feel like many, many communities should take into account, because a lot of them have like good goals, but they end up just deteriorating into this whole toxic.
Yeah, I want to like tie it into like how like Hack Club handles like education is like as opposed to like how like traditional schools like do education is like if you screw up and if you make a mistake, you're punished for it, and it's just like on your permanent record forever. If you fail a test, well, you can't, you're just stuck there forever. But with the ethos of hacking, it's like, yeah, you make mistakes. It is recognized as a mistake, and you get to learn and grow from it. Like, it's not going to get stuck on your permanent record, which is the thing, schools threaten you with is like, oh, this will be on your permanent record. And we invented the permanent, now the internet is the permanent record. We invented it. We did it. Everything's on your permanent record now.
Exactly. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay.
All right.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
All right. Okay. Yeah, there was a guy on the Twitch stream. He said he really wanted to meet you. His name is Rishi. He really wants to meet you, but he's in Hack Club and he's not verified yet. So his question is, let me find it.
Rishi.
Let me find the question again. Is 2D more popular or 3D, and why did you go with 3D? That's his question.
Wait.
So his question is 2D more popular or 3D, and why did you go with 2D? And that's his question.
3D is more popular in the AAA industry for obvious reasons, because they can afford it. And 2D is more popular in indie because we can't afford 3D. So, and as for why I went for 2D, because I don't know how to do 3D. And also, like, I can't actually think of anything right now that I actually want to do in 3D. Actually, no, that's not true. So I did dabble in VR for a bit, and I did 2.5D because I was lazy and I didn't know how to do 3D. And also 2.5D is a nice aesthetic. Like, like everyone loves Paper Mario, and it's also the only thing I could do. So.
Okay, that's a great answer. That was, yeah.
All right, he says thank you.
You can do hand-drawn, nice, stylish things in 2D, so.
Cool. So we're going to wrap the live stream now. Thank you, everyone who's watching. If you're interested in checking out more of Nicky's work, go to ncase.me. Nicky is also ncase and mayor on Twitter. They are amazing. Personally, I recommend checking out their Long Now talks. I think both are amazing that they've done. So if you Google Nicky Case Long Now, you'll find more of their work.
Wait, I have 2 talks there?
And sorry?
I was only aware of the 1 talk I did.
Oh, I've seen 2. There's one in 2017, one in 2018. Maybe they uploaded a different clip or something like that. And if you're interested in Hack Club, please go to hackclub.com. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone on the live.
That was amazing. Go to hackclub.com.